Hello, hello. Here we go, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special live edition of the Fox 26 live stream where we have a very special guest today. She is a Houstonian. She is a Houstonian that many people around the country love. When I first posted a picture of my interview with her for our on-air piece, I got messages from people all over the country saying, "Oh, I just love her." And I know you're going to learn why. If you have never met Dede Raad, she's from the Houston suburbs. She, like many in Houston, had an oil and gas job, but I won't say too much more. I'll just let her introduce herself and talk a little bit. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would be so kind as to welcome Dede Raad. Dede, thank you for being with us, better known to many as Dress Up Buttercup. So the first thing I want you to do is tell everyone kind of where you came from and a little bit of your origin story.
Yeah, so I grew up here in Houston, Texas, in suburbs of Sugarland. And I kind of left for like a hot minute to go to college at Texas State. And then my husband proposed. So I came home like my first semester at 19 years old, got married at 20, and then started my career. I was a wedding planner for a little. Then I went to the oil and gas job because everyone's like, it's better hours. You're obviously in Houston, do events for trade shows here in Houston. So I tried that for a little. And right when I started is when the layoffs started happening and the crash happened. So I was stuck at my desk. I was following blogs and I was so interested in it. I love fashion. I love connecting with people. I love just being able to create like pretty outfits and share that with people, or advice or travel advice too. So I got laid off and I asked my husband to give me like 6 months. I'm like, let me try this out. I don't really know. Back then in 2015, it really, blogging and influencer wasn't even a term. I'd get in a cab and I'd be like, oh, I'm a blogger. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? But now 5-6 years later, it's really kind of grown into its own industry and own career, which I've been so grateful for. I've loved it so much.
I mean, that's putting it lightly. You were recently named to Fortune's Creator 25 list, which is a huge accomplishment because it means that you are one of 25 people who they think are innovating the industry of social media in terms of careers. You are on this list with people like JoJo Siwa. You're with people like Lil Nas X. I mean, this is no small accomplishment. And one of the biggest reasons that people love you and the reason that you ended up on this list was because of your candor. And one thing they mentioned in their write-up about you is that you were very open and honest when talking about your experience when it came to pregnancy and childbirth. And you still, to this day, on your Instagram, have those stories for women who go through the same experience and who need, as you put it to me, sort of need a sister who's going to walk through it with them. How does it feel to see that story and images of you postpartum in the hospital put on now on TV? Because you put it out on social media, which to me is even more intimidating.
No, I think it's opposite because they're like my girls, my community. They like opt in to follow me in my life, and so when I put it on my stories, I really want to help like a sister out. And then when it gets everywhere else, I'm like, oh wow, this is people besides the internet or like my girls, my community are really following and paying attention. So I'm still trying to grasp it. I don't understand. I always try to like focus on my community and my girls and just kind of cultivate that relationship, like you said, like sisterhood relationship. Because even when I was first pregnant, my first pregnancy, I remember being at lunch with a girlfriend a week before I was about to be due, and she was talking about how I need to get diapers for postpartum diapers. And I remember being like, wait, what? Like no one told me this at all, and no one prepared me at all. And I remember getting on my stories and being like, I was so naive. I was like, this is going to be my outfit for going home, and it was overalls.
I don't mean to laugh, but having gone through it 3 times, yeah, we all did that. We all overpacked the bag. We all thought we knew what we needed, went on Pinterest, spent too much time. And then you've helped a lot of women prepare for what it's really like by being very open.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful for it because it really has created such great relationships with my community too. And I really appreciate even that conversation that I had with my friend at lunch. So be able to create like a community and talk to more people and reach more people has been the best thing ever. Go through
Awesome.
together.
Well, and we've got here, I'm showing a little bit of what you've shared online. So you literally had the camera rolling throughout the whole experience, through the parts where none of us want to be on camera, but you shared it. And I think that's very special to a lot of women, because you talked about losing your mother, and in that, losing the woman who was going to walk you through a lot of these life moments. And by the way, while I'm chatting, if any of you have questions for Dede, feel free to throw them in the comments, because in a minute, we're going to take some of your questions if you have any. She'll talk a little bit about what it took for her to become an influencer, but talk about how losing your mom impacted the course of your influencer career.
Yeah. So if you've gone through anything so devastating as a mom having cancer or a loved one in general, you feel like world just keeps spinning, your life is keeps spinning, your bills are still being like due, your people still need, your kids need to be fed still, but yeah, your life also stops because there's this drastic moment in your life that like you can't grasp with like what is going on, how could I help, I feel so helpless. And so I felt like all my friends were still getting together, they're still traveling. Well, it's kind of 2020, so it kind of was harder, but still like careers kept going on and my world kind of halted for a stop. And I really wanted to soak up like the last months of my mom's life because I knew that was happening. And so I I had a platform, I had my Instagram, so I kind of was like, you know what, I'm going to share so vulnerably of like what I'm going through every day. If I don't feel like coming on today because I'm crying my eyes out, that's what's going to do. Right when I lost my mom too, I was like, I'm going to share the post of grief as well, of like how grief looks like for a person, because you can be laughing one moment and you can be in your bathroom floor crying another moment, but that's normal too. And so I kind of want to just normalize everything that life goes on and what you're going to go through, because even if you've never gone through it before, I get messages all the time too being like, I'm now going through it and I remember those stories, and I'm just so grateful that I saw someone go through that and I can relate in that way. And so it really was a special time. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just it was, this is my life, this is like what I'm going to share. It really cultivated.
You've been a super open book. I think that was one of the things that impressed me most. I want to share a moment that you and I had during our interview where I was just so impressed with you. And I have to admit, I'm a bit of a cynic, right? When it comes to social media, you think, oh, you could tell, you could tell. So here's a moment that we had together where I think you can just watch my face and see, this was you describing having gotten an opportunity to be represented by an agency that was in LA, a big opportunity. And you explained why you gave that up.
Learned over the years to say no to so many people unless it's really, really organic to what I'm doing, because in the long run, I'm not happy sharing a product. Like they sent me men's face shaving cream. And it was a campaign that they were really trying to force me to do. And I was like, okay. And I did it also hating my life the entire time. And I was like, I need someone that really like understands what I'm trying to do and not really worry about the money first. I think it needed to be like my audience comes first at all times. And I've learned that over the years too.
Now, I have a confession. I actually had started following you years ago when you were getting started. And I could tell and I could see that in you, just how honest you were. And to hear that it was really authentic meant the world. And we have people watching right now who can say that even when you were at your hard time with your mom, you always were your true self, Dede. And I know it means the world to you still to hear this feedback from people who follow you.
Yeah, it does. Sorry.
Oh, Dede.
Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me today? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you should be so proud because you really have done an exceptional job of honoring your mother and becoming someone so great. I know your husband now is in the industry working with you, because when you weren't happy with the representation you were getting, you turned to him and he turned to you and you said, let's do this together. So now he's got a thriving agency. Is he based here in Houston?
Yeah, he's in Houston, employees some awesome females that are also behind the scenes, just running the mission of you don't have to sell out on Instagram to create this as a living. You can find unique and opportunities and authentic brands that are going to want to come to you and work with you because your audience sees that as well. And so, sorry, I'm trying to catch my breath.
Why is it so emotional?
I think I just seeing I don't see this behind the scenes. Like, obviously I talk to women every day, but seeing another side of people, seeing a perspective of really what I'm trying to do and accomplish has been kind of cool to see. People, like what you said, you followed along, but you really got to understand and see my heart behind it and my mission. That just means a lot to me. And that's all I want to do. Like I mentioned, like I'm a normal person from Houston. Like I don't understand what's going on half the time of like tuning in or what's going on, but I'm just very grateful as well. So
Well, and some people say that and then really are more calculated. I worked in New York City on a morning show. We had a lot of celebrities come in and out, and they would be on air and they would talk a certain way, and then they would be right on their phone, just very different. And you were very authentic either way. We have some questions, and Elena has a great one because I asked you this question. I think I phrased it as, "What would happen if you stopped?" You said, "Oh, I was going a mile a minute," and I asked, "What would happen?" Elena has the same question. How do you unplug or find time to step away and recharge? Because anyone who follows you know you are constantly going
online, constantly doing things. I had to learn this after 5 years of doing this. I'm on year 7 now, but 2 years ago, I finally, after having babies online and sharing my grieving online and just so much public changes online, I decided to take a week off and really like sign out of Instagram. Because I always say, like, I'm going to take weekends off. I'm going to take today off. And then I just find I love it so much. I have such a passion for it that you find yourself going back to it. And so I really did log off a week in January of that 2 years ago. And it kind of changed my perspective of like, I have this online kind of mind as well. Like when I do something, I'm like immediately like I need to bring out my camera because I have to share this moment with my followers. But I've also realized like special moments too have been so nice to just for myself and enjoy in the moment as well. And so I kind of take a step back and like if I'm online Friday, I'm online. I'm going to be, and if not, I step back.
Mhm.
I really have cultivated like really true relationships, like relationships out here. And I just they're back to where I so being having this on so that's in my way of recharge.
All right, and then similar question here with George asking, does it ever get so overwhelming that even if you weren't, I guess, planning to, do you ever have to take a step back or put the phone down or walk away?
Yeah, yes, for sure. I think I've done this so much too that I see my messages. Like I always go to my messages for a sounding board because I never want, and I think that's why I'm getting emotional too. I don't want anyone. It's so easy to misunderstand someone through a screen and try to see what their intentions are. And I like that's why I love like human interaction and people because I'm like if you really sat down and hear my heart, you wouldn't think I'd said that one way and you took it and ran it the other way. Like you would know that I didn't mean it in some way, shape, or form that was offensive or anything like that. And so when times like that, I do have to put my phone up and be like, or like when there's criticism coming your way at all times, like very heavy on, I'm just like, I'm going to shut this down. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to really like reevaluate and then come back. But it really hasn't happened in a long time. I don't even remember when the last time it's really happened to be that crucial.
Well, after 5+ years of doing it, I imagine you get very good at sensing when it's time to pump the brakes a little, when you have the capacity to increase that. And look, I mean, it's just so clear. Elena's saying, love your authenticity and vulnerability. The vulnerability was what was so impressive to me because there was no question I asked you during our interview that you weren't willing to just sort of dive in. Gimri asks, I think sort of the high level question we all want to know is what is the hardest part now that you are a full-time influencer? What is the hardest part?
So I know that we talked about this in our interview too. It is criticism. And I've learned to navigate criticism in a way. So when I first started at, what was I, like 24, 25, I was getting so much criticism. I felt like I needed to be a certain way. I needed to look a certain way. Someone would comment about my eyebrows. I'd go get my eyebrows done. Someone comment about my hair. I would go get that done. Like there's so much criticism coming to you just as a normal person nowadays. Like you are constantly getting feedback over and over again. And I I really don't think us as humans are meant for that. We're not meant to have this much criticism at our fingertips at all times. And so over the years, I've really learned to go to people that love me, that know me, that like that I can seek wisdom in, and see like, okay, they're saying this, or what do you think about this? And to really like have sounding boards outside of the influencer world and people that don't really know me in real life to really and learn. But I have learned a lot. And I will say criticism you can take in a really good way too. Like I mentioned, like when I first had my daughter, I had so much feedback about her car seat not being right on her chest. And you could take that two ways. You could be like, wow, that is so annoying. I just had a daughter, leave me alone. Or you could take it of like, I would love to hear feedback for safety of my child. Like that is something that like is very valuable feedback, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to look more into it. And so for me over the years, it's been learning what it takes to shut that, how to fit life. Like, oh, that really was great criticism, or that was something that they didn't like my teeth, or they didn't like my hair that day, or my outfit. Those things don't matter at the end of the day. So figuring out and weeding out the noise.
I mean, you are just getting so much love in the comments. Samantha saying, watching your stories even on a bad day feels like checking in on a friend. So that authenticity is very real. But I want to ask you a couple questions about the technical side of what you do. So a lot of people have either a company or a small business or a reason that they need to post online and generate an audience and generate some attention. So can you share a tip or two on some of the best ways for people to make sure that they're reaching the audience? Or is it just a matter of doing it consistently in time?
I definitely think consistency is key. Consistency, kind of showing up for your audience, always being there. But I was talking to a friend the other day. I think being a person, like you keep hearing these words, authentic, and be yourself, and all these things like that. But when it goes to a business social media profile, they probably are throwing up shirts, they're throwing up hairstyles, they're throwing up all these things. People really want connection in the world. We feel alone and we want to have that person that we connect with. So if you have like a hairstyle business, you're online, you're constantly sharing your new hairstyle. Also share your personality, share about your day, share about what you're eating, share about like things that people are really interested in too, and make it more of a connection. Just I'm trying to sell you something. At the end of the day, we are all getting thrown ads at us. We're all on our phones and it's like ad, and commercial. So the fact that like there's a person behind it, there's a reason why you are sharing what you're sharing. And like your hairstylist, for instance, means more than what, like an ad. I think that's what is really important to be.
Now let's talk a little bit about ads, because there are ways that people can pay to increase their viewership or followership. I'm sure you're familiar to some degree with sort of pay to play versus organic. Talk about navigating that, because it's very clear from the love you get from your audience that so much of that is true organic. Those aren't bots. Those are real women who really do love you.
Yeah, I think when I first started, that was the name of the game is I don't want anyone to follow me because I'm paying for it, or I did a giveaway and they don't want to be here. I want to really cultivate relationships and a community that wants to be here. And so what you kind of have to do is show up of what you're going to provide to your audience, the content that you're going to provide, and you have to be consistent. And if they don't like it, they'll leave, and that's completely fine too. I always see my followers go up and down, and at one point it did get to me a lot, and then I realized no, like I want people here and sticking around on my good and bad days. And so I want people that to really know me and to really be invested in what I'm sharing. And so if they leave, and that's fine. But if they're fake followers, or when you're saying bots and bot followers, that's not going to get you anywhere. You're really not going to go anywhere with that. So I never saw a benefit to that at all, besides your numbers fluctuating. But brands can see that right through you too. Brands can see that on the back end too. And I wouldn't be able to sleep at night being able to like say, oh, I have this many followers, pay me this rate, and then you don't perform. Like that's robbing the brand and your collaboration. So it's all about healthy relationships too, as far as that aspect.
I bet people are thrilled to hear you don't have to shell out a bunch of money and you just got to be authentic. I'm showing some of your website. You have just such extensive work and you've been blogging for all these years. So it goes deep. It goes deep. But I want you to share the 3 skills that you think, technical skills, whether that's Photoshop, photography. What are the 3 skills you think help someone to be a success on social media?
I think you mentioned photography. I think having clear, like a backdrop, clear, like lighting, like something that, like I'm looking at Instagram or a picture, something when it's dark, you're like, what is going on? So it needs to be, you need to be like clear. Everything needs to be crisp and kind of bright. I think people love that, and that attracts their eye to begin with, no matter what your message is. That's like captivating them too. So when I'm storing, I mean, not all the time, but majority of it is in daylight. I try to be a daylight. If you're looking at my clothes and my outfits, obviously it needs to be in regular like sunlight. I also think consistency. I know you hear it constantly, but I mentioned this, I've heard this analogy before, and I mentioned in our interview too, like a restaurant. When you're going to your favorite restaurant, you know that it's open from this time to this time, like Chick-fil-A, for instance. You know it's not open on Sundays. And so you're not going to go to Chick-fil-A drive-thru on Sundays because you know it's not there. And so for Instagram or your social media, you have to be reliable. Just like Chick-fil-A is 6 days a week, like you have to be open at certain times. So I've never like put the phone down and be like, I'm gonna peace out for like a week or 2. I'm gonna like forget this game and I'll come back later. Like if I'm checking out, I'm gonna tell my audience I'm checking out, like, and I'm gone for a week or so, or in a couple of days, or I'll be gone for 24 hours and come back and be like, I'm sorry I was gone. But like, it's checking in, it's a relationship, it's a community. So you're constantly having, I love it too. I don't mind sharing my day to day, and then also just being there for them. And then third, which for third, it's like the buzzword around social media right now, but it's being honestly authentic, because there's so much out there that is not real. It's very fake. It's very and so it's very easy to get in that shuffle, like, oh, this is fake, I'm not interested. Like when I first started, it was very picture perfect. And I don't know, there was no audience to cultivate, like to create, because it was so perfect.
Who can relate to perfection?
Yeah, us as humans are not like that at all. So that's kind of my 3 tips.
All right. All right. Well, we have learned a ton from you. I think a lot of people have gotten to meet you. People commenting on what a beautiful family you have, people commenting on how you've allowed them to feel part of that family. And I know that must mean the world to many people. And I just want you all to know how much you mean to Dede. As you saw here, she got emotional. That's, I think, the one thing I'll maybe take away most from you is to appreciate that. And I know, I post online too. We have a lot of similarities in that when I'm in the studio in the newsroom, when I'm talking and doing the news, people always forget there's no one in the room. There's just cameras. I mean, my co-anchor, and similar for you. I know you're putting all this work out there and you don't always get to see and meet and hear from the people. So I know that a lot of you joining us and a lot of you who will watch are fans. If you haven't checked her out, look up Dress Up Buttercup. You can check her out, follow her. Your fashion advice is solid stuff. But I think what's more enjoyable is getting to check in with someone who's very real and someone who's authentic in a world where there's Facetune and FaceApp and people changing and trying to all look the same, and everyone has that same Instagram face, and you have a face that makes people really smile. So it's such a pleasure to work with you and get to know you, Dede. Wish you all the best. We're all big fans here at Fox 26, and we're going to be looking forward to big things from you, and we hope you'll come back and check in with us in the future. So everyone, thank you so much for joining. Dede, any final words?
Oh, Kaitlin, you have been so great too. You've been so comfortable. Usually I like sweat my pits out and I'm like, what am I doing? So
then that would have made 2 of us because I'm sweating too. But I think that's a mom thing. So Dede, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your family and your kids. Thank you everyone who logged on today, and make sure that you share Dede's article with someone who you think might benefit from having a great friend on Insta, or simply finding some affordable fashion and having some fun. So we'll see you guys soon. Dede, thanks so much.
Bye.